not able to right now. That was cool. I can't believe I did that. What the heck? I'm not able to right now. That was cool.
He broke my ribs. 5 simple words, typed with shaking fingers. It was the desperate cry of a dying woman trying to text her brother for help. But in her panic, she mistyped the number. She didn't text her family. She texted Dominic Moretti, the most feared capo in the Chicago underworld. A man who kills without blinking. A man who doesn't save people. He buries them. But when that text lit up his phone in the middle of a high-stakes meeting, everything changed. This isn't just a story about a wrong number. It's a story about what happens when a monster meets the devil himself. Buckle up. You are not ready for this. The bathroom door frame splintered. Thud. Open the goddamn door, Charlie. Do you think a lock is going to stop me? Charlie huddled into the gap between the porcelain toilet and the bathtub, her knees drawn up to her chest. Every breath was a jagged shard of glass inside her lung. She knew the sensation. She remembered it from 2 years ago when he'd thrown her down the stairs. Broken ribs. She stifled a sob, pressing her hand over her mouth. The taste of copper blood was heavy on her tongue. Her husband Richard wasn't just a successful investment banker for Goldman Sachs. Behind closed doors, he was a sadistic tyrant who treated his wife like a punching bag whenever the market took a dip. Thud. The wood groaned. He would be in soon. Her phone lay on the bath mat, the screen cracked spiderweb style from where he'd slapped it out of her hand earlier. It was her only lifeline. Her brother Toby was a cop in the 21st District. He had told her 1,000 times. The next time he touches you, you text me. I don't care if I lose my badge, I'll kill him. Her trembling fingers swiped the screen unlock. Her vision was blurry from tears and the concussion she suspected she had. She opened her messages. She didn't have time to scroll. She punched in the digits from memory, or what she thought was memory. To unknown number. He broke my ribs. He's breaking down the door. Help me. She hit send. She stared at the screen, praying for the 3 little dots that meant Toby was typing. But the bubble didn't stay blue. It turned green. Sent as text message. Charlie's heart stopped. Blue meant iPhone to iPhone. Toby had an iPhone. Green meant she had typed the wrong digit. No, 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 she whispered, panic clawing at her throat. She had sent her death warrant to a stranger, a wrong number, maybe an old landline, maybe a teenager who would think it was a prank. Crack. The door hinge gave way. Richard's expensive Ferragamo loafer kicked through the wood. He was breathing hard, his tie loosened, his eyes wide with that manic, whiskey-fueled rage. "Who are you texting?" Richard roared, stepping into the small sanctuary. "Are you telling your pathetic family?" He grabbed her by the hair, yanking her up. Charlie screamed, the movement tearing at her injured side. Psst! Her phone, still clutched in her hand, vibrated. Richard paused, a cruel smirk twisting his lips. "Let's see who's coming to save you." He snatched the phone from her grip. He looked at the screen. He frowned. "Who the hell is 31255500199? Richard sneered. Charlie didn't know. She slumped against the tile, waiting for the blow. But Richard didn't hit her. He was reading the reply on the screen. His face went from red to a confused, pale shade. He tossed the phone onto her lap with a scoff. "Some prankster. Useless bitch." He turned to the sink to wash the blood off his knuckles. "Clean yourself up. We have the charity gala tomorrow at the Palmer house. If you show a single bruise, I'll finish what I started." As he turned the water on, drowning out the sound of her whimpering, Charlie looked down at her phone. "From unknown number. Who is this?" Charlie's thumbs hovered. She had nothing left to lose. Richard was going to kill her one day. Maybe tonight. To unknown number. "Please." I messed up the number. My husband is going to kill me. I'm at 4200 North Marine Drive, Penthouse B. Please just call the police. She waited. 1 second. 2 seconds. The phone buzzed again. From unknown number. I don't call police. Charlie's heart sank. Of course. Just a stranger who didn't want to get involved. She went to lock the screen to give up. Bzzzt. From unknown number. Is he still in the room? Charlie blinked. To unknown number. Yes, washing his hands. Bzzzt. From unknown number. Keep talking to me. I'm coming. Dominic. Dom Moretti sat in the back of his armored Cadillac Escalade, the city of Chicago blurring past the tinted windows. Next to him sat his consigliere, Silvio, a man who looked like he had been carved out of granite. The shipment from the docks was light, boss, Silvio said, checking his iPad. The Russians are skimming off the top. Dom didn't answer immediately. He was staring at his personal phone, the burner he used for strictly high-level business. Only 5 people had this number. The mayor, his 2 lieutenants, his lawyer, and his mother. So how did a woman named Charlie get it? He broke my ribs. The text sat there, glowing against the black background. Dom was a man of violence. He had broken ribs himself. He had broken legs, jaws, and spirits. But he had a code, the old world code. Women and children were off limits, and men who beat their wives were the lowest form of vermin, lower than rats. Silvio. Dom said, his voice dropping an octave. It was the tone that made his soldiers straighten up. Change of plans. Boss. We're due at the sit-down with the Bratva in 20 minutes. Cancel it. Dom looked down at the address the woman had sent. 4200 North Marine Drive. Turn the car around. We're going to Uptown. Silvio signaled the driver without hesitation, but he looked confused. What's in Uptown A? Hit. A correction, Dom muttered. He typed a reply. Keep talking to me. I'm coming. He didn't know why he was doing this. He wasn't a hero. He was the head of the Moretti crime family. But there was something about the desperation in those texts. The raw fear. It reminded him of his sister, Sophia. 10 years ago, Sophia had married a man just like the one this stranger described. By the time Dom found out what was happening, it was too late. Sophia was gone. He had buried her husband alive in a cornfield in Indiana, but it hadn't brought Sophia back. This time, he wouldn't be late. How far? Dom barked. 10 minutes, boss. Dom looked at the phone again. From Charlie, he's drinking again. He has a gun in the nightstand. I can't move my left arm. It hurts so much. Dom's grip on the phone tightened until the plastic creaked. To Charlie. What is his name? From Charlie. Richard Michael. Silvio, Dom said. Richard Michael. Run him. Silvio tapped furiously on his iPad. Investment banker. Michael and partners. Net worth around 40 million. Clean record mostly. A few noise complaints at his old residence in Lincoln Park. Charges dropped. Money covers a lot of sins, Dom said coldly. He checked the clip of his Sig Sauer P226. Not this time. Back in the penthouse, the atmosphere was suffocating. Richard was sitting on the edge of the California king bed, nursing a glass of Macallan 18. He was watching Charlie try to pack a bag. He had told her to leave, then told her to stay. It was a psychological game he loved to play. "You think you can leave?" Richard laughed, swirling the amber liquid. "You have nothing, Charlie. I paid off your student loans. I bought the clothes on your back. You are an investment, and I don't liquidate my assets at a loss." Charlie winced as she folded a sweater. Her side was on fire. She glanced at her phone on the dresser. From unknown number. "I am 2 minutes away. Stay away from the windows. When I knock, get down." She didn't know if she believed him. Who could get past the doorman? This was a high-security building. Richard paid thousands a month for privacy. "Who keeps texting you?" Richard stood up, his mood swinging back to violence instantly. "Is it that brother of yours? Is Toby coming to play hero?" He marched over and grabbed the phone. "Give it back!" Charlie screamed, lunging for it. Richard backhanded her. It was a lazy, dismissive strike, but it sent her crumbling to the floor. Pathetic. He looked at the screen. He read the last text. "I am 2 minutes away." Richard laughed, a loud, barking laugh. "You actually found some idiot to come here. Who is it?" "An Uber driver." He walked to the intercom on the wall that connected to the lobby. "Patrick." He buzzed the doorman. "If anyone asks for 4B, tell them to get lost, and if they persist, call the cops." There was no answer from the intercom, just static. "Patrick." Richard pressed the button again. Silence. Then a sound came from the hallway outside the penthouse door. Not a knock. It was a heavy, rhythmic thudding, like heavy boots walking on marble. Richard frowned. He reached into the nightstand and pulled out his chrome-plated .38 revolver. "Stay here," he hissed at Charlie. He walked into the living room, aiming the gun at the front door. Charlie dragged herself up. "Stay away from the windows. When I knock, get down." She crawled behind the heavy oak dresser. Boom! The penthouse door didn't just open. It exploded inward. The lock mechanism shattered, sending wood shrapnel flying across the expensive Persian rug. Richard shouted, firing a shot blindly into the dust. "Get out! I have a gun!" Through the settling dust, a figure emerged. He was huge, at least 6'4", wearing a bespoke charcoal suit that cost more than Charlie's car. He didn't look like a cop. He didn't look like a savior. He looked like death. Behind him, 2 other men. Silvio and another guard stepped in submachine guns hanging loosely at their sides. Richard's hands shook. He recognized the face. Everyone in Chicago who dealt with money knew the face. It was the face that appeared in the nightmares of the city's elite. Mr. Moretti. Richard stammered, the gun trembling in his hand. I think there's a misunderstanding. This is a private residence." Dom didn't even look at Richard. His dark eyes scanned the room until they landed on Charlie, who was peeking out from behind the bedroom door. Her lip split, her eye swelling shut. Dom's expression didn't change, but the temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. He slowly turned his gaze to Richard. "You must be Richard," Dom said. His voice was calm, terrifyingly calm. Yes. Look, whatever she told you." "She told me you broke her ribs," Dom said, taking a step forward. "She's my wife," Richard yelled, trying to regain his authority. "This is a domestic matter. Get out of my house before I call the commissioner." Dom smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. "You think the police can help you? You're not dealing with the law. Richard, you're dealing with me." Richard raised the gun again, pointing it at Dom's chest. "Back off." Dom didn't stop. He walked right up to the barrel of the gun. "Go ahead. Pull the trigger. But you better make sure you kill me. Because if you don't—" Richard hesitated. In that split second of fear, Dom moved. It was a blur of motion. Dom's left hand snatched the gun barrel, twisting it violently downward, snapping Richard's trigger finger with a sickening crunch. Richard screamed, dropping the weapon. Dom's right hand formed a fist and connected with Richard's jaw. The sound was like a bat hitting a watermelon. Richard flew backward, crashing into the glass coffee table, shattering it. Dom adjusted his cufflinks. He looked at Charlie. "Get your things," he said softly. "You're leaving." The ride was silent. Dead silent. Charlie sat in the back of the Escalade, wrapped in a cashmere blanket that smelled of expensive cologne and gun oil. She was shivering, despite the heated seats. The adrenaline was fading, leaving behind the throbbing agony of her ribs and the stinging cut on her cheek. She looked at the man next to her. Dominic Moretti. She had seen his face in the newspapers, usually in the crime section, though the captions always labeled him a businessman or real estate mogul. Everyone in Chicago knew the truth. He was the Don, the king of the loop, and she had texted him like he was IRA roadside assistance. "Where are we going?" Charlie whispered, her voice cracking. Dom didn't look up from his phone. He was typing rapidly. "Somewhere he can't find you." He has friends," Charlie stammered. "Richard isn't just a banker. He plays golf with the district attorney. He manages portfolios for judges." Dom finally turned his head. The streetlights outside cast rhythmic shadows across his sharp jawline. "I know who he is, Charlie, and he knows who I am. That's why he's still alive. If he were anyone else, Silvio would have put a bullet in his head back in the penthouse." Silvio, sitting in the front passenger seat, grunted in agreement. "Still can, boss. Just say the word." "Not yet," Dom said. "Killing a man like Michael brings heat. We need to be smart." The car slowed down, turning off the highway and heading toward the affluent, secluded estates of Lake Forest. They pulled up to massive iron gates that swung open automatically. The driveway wound through acres of dark forest until a sprawling stone mansion appeared, lit up like a fortress. Can I go to a hospital?" Charlie asked as the car stopped. "I think something is broken inside." "No hospitals," Dom said sharply, opening his door. "Hospitals have records. Records have addresses. If you check in, Michael finds you in an hour." He stepped out and offered her a hand. Charlie hesitated. His hand was large, rough, and covered in tattoos that disappeared up his sleeve. But when she took it, his grip was surprisingly gentle. He helped her out of the SUV, supporting her weight so she didn't have to strain her side. Inside the mansion was cold and modern. Marble floors, abstract art, and men in suits standing in the shadows of the hallways. "Take her to the guest wing," Dom ordered a maid who appeared from the kitchen. "And get Dr. Calloway here, now." 20 minutes later, Charlie was sitting on the edge of a bed that was bigger than her entire first apartment. Dr. Calloway, a weary-looking man with grey hair and a nervous tic, was wrapping her ribs. "2 fractures," Calloway muttered, glancing at Dom, who was leaning against the doorframe, arms crossed. She's lucky. 1 inch to the left, and the bone would have punctured a lung. Will she heal? Dom asked. With rest, no heavy lifting, no stress. Calloway packed his bag. I'll leave some painkillers, strong ones. When the doctor left, Dom walked into the room. He didn't come close. He stayed by the window looking out at the dark grounds. Why? Charlie asked. The question hung in the heavy air. Dom turned. Why what? Why did you come? You don't know me. I'm just a wrong number. Dom walked over to the nightstand and poured a glass of water. He handed it to her, along with 2 white pills. My sister, he said, his voice devoid of emotion. Her name was Sophia. She married a man named Carlo. Everyone thought Carlo was a saint. He gave to charity, went to church. Dom's eyes darkened, but he liked to use his fists when he drank. Charlie gripped the glass. What happened to her? She didn't text the wrong number, Dom said. She didn't text anyone. She died on her kitchen floor because she was too afraid to ask for help. He leaned in his face inches from hers. Charlie could see the gold flecks in his dark irises. When I saw your text, he broke my ribs. I didn't see a stranger. I saw Sophia. He straightened up the mask of the Mafia Don sliding back into place. Rest. You're safe here. Nobody enters this house unless I allow it. And nobody leaves unless I allow it. Charlie swallowed the pills. As the medicine began to pull her under, she realized the double meaning of his words. She was safe from Richard. But she was a prisoner of Dominic Moretti. Richard Michael woke up on his own floor. His jaw throbbed with a dull, sickening ache. He spat out a mouthful of blood and a piece of a tooth onto the Persian rug. The penthouse was slunt. The wind blew through the shattered front door. He tried to stand, but dizziness slammed him back down. He grabbed his phone from the floor. The screen was cracked, but it worked. He didn't call 911. He dialed a number memorized by heart. Senator Reynolds, Richard rasped when the line connected. Richard. It's 2:00 a.m. This better be good. Dominic Moretti. Richard said the name, tasting like bile. He just broke into my home. He assaulted me, and he kidnapped Charlie. There was a long silence on the other end. Moretti. The senator's voice lost its sleepiness. Are you sure? Why would the head of the Chicago outfit want your wife? I don't know. Richard lied. Maybe for ransom. Maybe he's trying to get to you through me. Look, Arthur, you owe me. I buried those transaction records for your re-election campaign. I made sure that offshore account in the Caymans stayed invisible. If you don't help me, I start talking. Calm down, Richard, the senator said smoothly. If Moretti has her, we can't just send a patrol car. That's an act of war. Then start a war, Richard hissed. I want my wife back, and I want Moretti dead. The next morning, the sunlight streaming into the guest room woke Charlie. For a split second, she thought she was home. Then the pain in her ribs flared and she remembered. She limp-walked to the window. Below, on the sprawling lawn, she saw men patrolling with German shepherds. The door opened. It wasn't a maid. It was Silvio. Boss wants you in the library, he said gruffly. Now. Charlie threw on a silk robe that had been left for her and followed him. The house was buzzing with tension. Men were running down hallways with assault rifles. Phones were ringing. In the library, Dom was standing behind a massive mahogany desk. He looked like he hadn't slept. His dress shirt was unbuttoned at the collar, sleeves rolled up to reveal muscular forearms. He pointed at the large flat-screen TV on the wall. "Watch." Charlie looked. It was a local news broadcast. The headline in bold red letters read, "Breaking news: investment banker attacked wife abducted." On the screen, a photo of Charlie flashed up. Then a video of Richard. He was standing outside their apartment building, a bandage on his jaw, looking devastated. "She is my everything," Richard was saying to the cameras, tears streaming down his face. "These monsters broke into our home. They beat me unconscious and dragged her away. Charlie, if you can hear me, I love you. We will find you." Charlie felt sick. He's lying. He's so good at lying. "It gets better," Dom said, clicking a remote. The screen changed to the police commissioner, giving a statement. "We have identified the prime suspect as Dominic Moretti. A warrant has been issued for his arrest for kidnapping, aggravated assault, and extortion. We are declaring him armed and dangerous." Dom turned off the TV. The room went silent. "You're a liability, Charlie," Silvio said from the corner. "The heat is too much. The cops are setting up roadblocks. We need to cut her loose. Drop her at a police station and let her tell the truth." "No," Charlie cried out, turning to Dom. "If I go to the police, Richard will spin it. He'll say I'm mentally unstable. He's done it before. He has doctors on his payroll who write prescriptions I never asked for. He'll have me committed and then—" She shuddered. "Then he'll kill me." Dom looked at Silvio. "She's right. Michael has played this perfectly. He's turned the victim into the villain." "Boss, we have a shipment coming in tonight," Silvio argued. "If the cops raid this place looking for the girl, they find the books. They find the weapons. We lose everything." Dom looked at Charlie. She looked small, bruised, and terrified in the oversized robe. But her eyes were fierce. She wasn't begging for her life. She was angry. "I can help you," Charlie said suddenly. Dom raised an eyebrow. "You can help me?" "You're an art history major." "Charlie, unless you can paint me a way out of a RICO charge, you're useless to me right now." "I'm not just an art history major," Charlie said, stepping forward, ignoring the pain in her ribs. "I'm Richard Michael's wife. I've lived with him for 5 years. I know where he keeps his leverage." Dom paused. "What leverage?" "Richard doesn't just manage money for senators," Charlie said. "He keeps insurance. He records conversations. He keeps a black ledger of every bribe he's ever paid. He calls it his doomsday book." Dom's interest piqued. "Where is it?" "It's in a safe deposit box at a private vault in the Loop, but it requires 2 keys. He has one." "And the other?" Charlie reached into the pocket of her robe, or rather the pocket of the jeans she had worn the night before, which were folded on a chair. She pulled out a small, intricate silver key. "I stole this 3 months ago," she said. "He thinks he lost it. He's been tearing the house apart, looking for it." Dom walked around the desk. He took the key from her hand. He looked at it, then at her. A slow smile spread across his face, not the terrifying smile from last night, but a smile of genuine respect. "Silvio," Dom said, tossing the key in the air and catching it. "Cancel the shipment. Get the boys ready." "What are we doing, boss? We're not going to hide anymore." Dom said, his eyes locking with Charlie's. "We're going to rob a bank." "If we do this," Dom said, buttoning a fresh shirt, black as midnight, "there is no going back. You are declaring war on your husband." Charlie stood before the full-length mirror in the guest suite. The transformation was startling. The bruised, terrified woman from the night before was gone, masked by layers of expensive foundation and concealer. She wore a tailored crimson dress that Dom's stylist had brought in within the hour. It was elegant, high-necked to hide any potential marks, but fitted enough to show she was a woman of status. She looked like a Mafia wife. "He declared war on me the first time he hit me," Charlie replied, smoothing the fabric over her injured side. The painkillers were working, dulling the sharp agony in her ribs to a throbbing ache. "I'm just finishing it." Dom watched her from the doorway. For the first time, he wasn't looking at a liability or a victim. He was looking at a partner. "The vault is in the basement of the Rookery building," Dom explained, checking his Sig Sauer before tucking it into the holster beneath his jacket. "Ironclad securities. It's neutral ground. Criminals, judges, politicians, they all keep their dirt there because Ironclad doesn't ask for warrants. They only ask for keys and biometrics." "Richard has a retina scan," Charlie said, her heart rate picking up. "I don't have his eyes." "No," Dom said, walking over to her. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small, high-tech contact lens case. "But my hacker, Benny, pulled Richard's biometric data from the hospital records when he got his LASIK surgery last year." He handed her the case. "Put these in. To the scanner, you'll be Richard Michael." Charlie's hands trembled as she took the case. "What if it doesn't work?" Dom stepped closer, invading her personal space. The scent of sandalwood and danger was intoxicating. He reached out his rough thumb, grazing her jawline, tilting her head up. "Then I burn the building down with us inside," he whispered intensely. "I don't leave my people behind. And as of last night, Charlie, you're my people." A shiver that had nothing to do with fear raced down her spine. The lobby of the Rookery building was a masterpiece of marble and gold leaf, echoing with the hushed whispers of Chicago's elite. When Dom and Charlie walked in, heads turned. They moved in perfect synchronization. Dom's hand rested possessively on the small of her back, a gesture that looked romantic to onlookers, but was actually providing physical support for her broken ribs. "Mr. Michael's box," Dom told the clerk at the front desk, his voice a low rumble. "My associate here has the key." The clerk, a young man named Elias, looked nervous. He glanced at the computer screen. "Mr. Michael usually comes alone." "Mr. Michael is indisposed," Charlie said, her voice steady, despite the screaming nerves in her stomach. She channeled every ounce of the cold, detached arrogance she had seen Richard use for years. "I am his wife. Do you have a problem with that?" Elias swallowed hard. "No, Mrs. Michael, of course not. Please follow me." They were led to the elevator descending deep underground. The air grew cooler. The steel doors opened to reveal a vault room that looked like something out of a spy movie. Walls of stainless steel boxes. "Box 404, Elias said, pointing to a drawer at eye level. "I'll need the key and the retinal verification." Charlie stepped forward. She inserted the silver key. It turned with a smooth, satisfying click. "Please look into the scanner," Elias instructed. Charlie leaned in. The red light of the scanner swept over her eye, reading the fake contact lens. Beep. Scan complete. Identity confirmed. Richard Michael. The lock disengaged. The heavy steel drawer popped open. Elias bowed and retreated to the privacy line. "Take your time." Dom moved instantly, his body blocking the view of the security cameras. He pulled the drawer open fully. Inside there were stacks of cash, a bag of uncut diamonds, and a thick black leather-bound notebook. "The Doomsday Book," Charlie whispered. Dom grabbed it. He flipped it open. His eyes scanned the pages. "Jesus," he muttered. "He has everyone in here. Judges, police captains. He even has dirt on the governor." "We have him," Charlie said, a smile breaking through her fear. Dom shoved the book into the inside pocket of his jacket. "Let's go. We're not safe until we're back at the estate." They closed the box and turned to leave. The elevator ride back up felt like an eternity. Ding! The doors opened to the lobby, but the lobby wasn't empty anymore. Standing between them and the exit were 4 men in tactical gear, and in the center of them, wearing a bandage on his jaw and looking like a man possessed, was Richard. He hadn't tracked the key. He had a silent alarm on the box. "Hello, darling." Richard smiled, though his eyes were dead. He raised a hand, and the 4 men raised their weapons. "I believe you have something that belongs to me." The lobby of the rookery went deathly silent. The clerk, Elias, dove behind the reception desk. Dom didn't flinch. His hand didn't move toward his gun yet. He just stood in front of Charlie, using his massive frame as a human shield. "Richard," Dom said, his voice casual, as if they were meeting for coffee. "You look terrible. That jaw is going to bruise." "Shut up!" Richard screamed, his composure cracking. The veneer of the successful banker was gone, replaced by the desperate monster. "Give me the book, Moretti." "You have no idea who you're messing with. Those men behind me, they aren't security guards. They're off-duty SWAT. I own them. I can have you shot right here and claim self-defense." "And Charlie?" Dom asked. "You going to shoot your wife in the lobby of a public building?" Richard's gaze shifted to Charlie, who was peeking over Dom's shoulder. "Charlie, come here. Now. Walk away from him, and I might forgive this little stunt. We can go home. I'll get you the best doctors." Charlie looked at her husband. For years that voice had commanded her. It had made her freeze. It had made her small. But she wasn't small anymore. She had the devil on her side. "No," Charlie said. Her voice rang out clear in the marble hall. "I'm never going back to that house. And I'm never going back to you." Richard's face twisted into a snarl. "Fine. If you want to die with the trash, so be it. Kill them." Time seemed to slow down. Dom moved faster than humanly possible. He kicked a heavy marble planter stand over, sending it crashing into the path of the shooters to create a split-second distraction. "Run!" Dom roared, grabbing Charlie's hand. He didn't run toward the exit. Richard's men blocked it. He ran toward the service corridor behind the reception desk. Bang, bang. Gunshots echoed like thunder. Marble chips exploded from the pillar next to Charlie's head. She screamed, ducking low, ignoring the fire in her ribs as she sprinted. Dom turned and fired 2 shots from his Sig Sauer. One of the SWAT officers grunted and went down, clutching his leg. They burst into the service hallway, sprinting past confused janitors. "The parking garage!" Dom shouted over the ringing in their ears. "Silvio is waiting at the south exit." They burst through the fire doors into the concrete garage. The echo of boots chasing them was getting louder. "There!" Dom pointed to the black SUV idling near the ramp. Silvio was behind the wheel, the engine revving. But as they ran across the open concrete, a shot rang out from the upper level. Richard was up there on the balcony, firing blindly with a revolver. Charlie felt a tug on her arm, a violent jerk. Dom stumbled. A bloom of red appeared on the shoulder of his suit jacket. He had stepped in front of a bullet meant for her. "Dom!" Charlie screamed, stopping to grab him. "Don't stop!" Dom gritted his teeth, his face paling. He shoved her forward. "Get in the car!" They reached the SUV. Silvio threw the back door open. Dom practically threw Charlie inside before collapsing onto the seat next to her. "Go, go, go!" Dom yelled. Silvio slammed on the gas. The Escalade screeched, tires smoking as it tore up the ramp. Bullets pinged off the armored glass, dink, 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 but the reinforced steel held. They smashed through the wooden arm of the parking gate and roared out into the Chicago daylight. Silvio weaved through traffic, running red lights, putting distance between them and the shooters. In the back seat, the adrenaline crash was hitting hard. "You're shot!" Charlie gasped, her hands hovering over Dom's shoulder. The blood was soaking the black fabric, making it slick. Dom leaned his head back against the leather seat, his breathing shallow. He looked at her. He was sweating, and his eyes were glazed with pain. "I told you," he rasped, a faint smirk playing on his lips. "I don't leave my people behind." Charlie ripped the hem of her expensive red dress, tearing a long strip of fabric. She pressed it against his wound. "Silvio!" she shouted toward the front. "How far to the house he's losing blood?" 20 minutes, Silvio yelled back. His eyes glued to the rearview mirror. "Hang on. Boss, stay with us." Dom's hand, heavy and blood-stained, reached up and covered Charlie's hand that was pressing on his wound. "The book," Dom whispered. "Did we keep the book?" Charlie looked down. The black leather book was safe in his jacket pocket, stained slightly with his blood. "We got it," she sobbed, tears finally spilling over. "We got it, Dom." "Good," he murmured, his eyes fluttering shut. "Now we own him." Charlie watched his chest rise and fall. She looked at the blood on her hands. His blood. Richard had broken her ribs, but Dominic Moretti had taken a bullet for her. In that moment, in the back of a speeding getaway car, Charlie made a vow. She wasn't just going to put Richard in jail. She was going to destroy his entire world. But first, she had to make sure the devil didn't die. The air in the basement medical bay was heavy, smelling of rubbing alcohol iron and the sharp electric tang of ozone from the overworked generator. Dominic Moretti lay on the stainless steel surgical table, his upper body bare, slick with sweat and blood. His knuckles were white where he gripped the leather straps at the side of the table. "Hold him down!" Dr. Calloway barked, his voice tight with stress. Charlie stood by Dom's head. She placed her hands on his good shoulder and the side of his face, her thumbs stroking his temple. "Look at me, Dom. Just look at me." "Do it," Dom growled through gritted teeth. Calloway didn't hesitate. Without anesthesia, which would drop Dom's blood pressure too dangerously low, he dug the forceps into the bullet wound. Dom's back arched off the table. A guttural roar of agony ripped from his throat, a sound so raw and primal it made Charlie's own bones ache. She didn't look away. She couldn't. This man, who she had known for less than 24 hours, was being carved open because he had shielded her. Clink. The sound of metal hitting a metal tray was the loudest thing in the room. "It's out." Calloway exhaled, dropping the deformed slug into a kidney dish. "The artery is intact, but the muscle damage is severe. He's lost a pint of blood, maybe more. If he moves that arm, he'll tear the sutures and bleed out in minutes." Dom slumped back against the table, his chest heaving. His skin was grey, his eyes losing focus. "Silvio." Dom rasped, his voice barely audible. "The book." Silvio, who had been pacing the perimeter of the room like a caged tiger, stepped into the light. He held the black leather ledger they had stolen from the vault. His face was grim. "It's worse than we thought, boss," Silvio said, flipping open a page marked with a sticky note. "Michael isn't just fixing traffic tickets or laundering local bribes. Look at this entry. Vorobyev shipment, Port of Indiana. That's the Bratva. The Russians. Charlie felt the blood drain from her face. The Russians? Richard is washing money for the Eastern Bloc, Silvio confirmed. That SWAT team upstairs, they aren't just corrupt cops, they're mercenaries on the Russian payroll. If this book gets out, Richard doesn't just go to prison. The Russians will skin him alive for losing their secrets. That's why he's attacking the house. Charlie realized horror dawning on her. He's not trying to save his marriage. He's fighting for his life. And he's going to kill all of us to do it, Dom whispered. He tried to sit up, but the movement sent a fresh wave of blood soaking through the gauze Calloway had just applied. He hissed, falling back. "Stay down," Charlie ordered, her voice trembling but firm. She grabbed a towel and pressed it against the dressing. Suddenly, the room was bathed in flashing red light. A siren, low, rhythmic, and terrifying, began to pulse through the estate. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Silvio grabbed the walkie-talkie from his belt. "Status." The voice on the other end was distorted by gunfire and static. "Perimeter breach, South Gate, is gone. They rammed it with an armored truck. Hostiles are on the lawn. Heavy automatic fire. They're suppressing the guards." A massive explosion shook the foundation of the house. Dust rained down from the basement ceiling, coating the surgical instruments. "They used an RPG," Silvio cursed. "They aren't playing around." Dom's eyes snapped open. The pain was still there, but the haze of shock was replaced by the cold, hard glint of violence. "Get me my gun. Help me up." "You can't stand, you idiot," Charlie shouted, pushing him down as he tried to swing his legs off the table. "Dr. Calloway said if you move, you bleed out. You're not going out there. They will kill everyone in this house to get to you." Dom snarled, his hand reaching out to grab her wrist. His grip was weak, shaking. I promised you were safe." Charlie looked at his hand holding hers. It was large, tattooed, and covered in his own blood. For years, Richard had made her feel small. He had made her feel like a china doll that he could break whenever he lost his temper. But Dom didn't see a doll. He saw a queen. She gently peeled his fingers off her wrist. "You did keep me safe," Charlie said softly. "Now it's my turn." She turned to the metal table where Silvio had laid out an arsenal of weapons. She bypassed the assault rifles, too heavy, too much recoil. Her eyes landed on a sleek, matte black Beretta 9mm. She picked it up. It was heavy cold and smelled of oil. She checked the magazine just like she had seen in movies, racking the slide. A bullet chambered with a metallic shick-clack. "Charlie, no." Dom pleaded, struggling against the straps Calloway was now retightening. "Silvio, stop her." Silvio looked at Charlie. He saw the set of her jaw. He saw the fire in her eyes that matched Dom's own. He didn't move to stop her. "Hold the stairs," Charlie told Silvio. "Don't let anyone down here. If they get past me, you know what to do." Silvio nodded slowly. "I won't let them take him alive, ma'am." Charlie turned and ran up the concrete stairs, the heels of her ruined shoes clicking against the stone. The main floor of the mansion was a war zone. What had been a pristine sanctuary of marble and modern art was now filled with smoke and debris. The massive front windows had been blown out, and the night wind whipped through the hall, carrying the sounds of screaming and automatic gunfire. Charlie crouched low, moving behind the heavy oak furniture. She wasn't a soldier. She wasn't an assassin. She was a terrified woman with broken ribs and a stolen gun. But fear, she realized, was fuel. She saw movement near the shattered front entrance. Two men in tactical gear stepped over the body of one of Dom's guards. They moved with precision, scanning the room with laser sights that cut through the dust like red vipers. And then, walking behind them, was Richard. He looked unhinged. His expensive Italian suit was torn, his tie gone. He was wearing a heavy ballistic vest that looked bulky on his frame. He carried an assault rifle, sweeping it back and forth. "Charlie!" Richard screamed. "Richard." His voice echoed through the cavernous hall, distorted by mania. "I know you're in here. Don't make this difficult." Charlie pressed her back against a marble pillar near the grand staircase. Her heart hammered against her ribs so hard she thought they might crack again. "Come out, darling," Richard taunted, stepping over shards of a Ming vase. "Give me the book, and we can forget this ever happened. We can go to the Maldives. We can start over, just you and me." He fired a burst of bullets into the ceiling, bringing down a shower of plaster. "Or," he laughed, a jagged, wet sound, "I can burn this place to the ground with your boyfriend inside it. It's your choice. It's always your choice, Charlie." It was the same psychological game he had played for 5 years. "Look what you made me do. This is your fault." Charlie closed her eyes for a second. She saw the text message she had sent. "He broke my ribs." She saw Dom taking a bullet. She saw the Doomsday Book. She opened her eyes. She wasn't hiding anymore. Charlie stepped out from behind the pillar. "Richard." Her voice wasn't loud, but it cut through the noise of the dying skirmish outside. Richard spun around. He signaled his men to hold fire. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. His eyes were dead, filled only with panic and greed. "There she is," Richard cooed, lowering his rifle slightly. "My beautiful, stupid wife. Look at you, trying to play gangster." He took a step toward her, then another. "Stay back," Charlie warned, raising the Beretta with 2 shaking hands. Richard laughed. "Oh, please, you don't have it in you. You couldn't even tell the waiter your order was wrong last week. You think you can shoot me?" He was closing the distance. 20 feet. 15 feet. "Put the toy away, Charlie." Richard sneered, his face twisting into a mask of pure malice. "Give me the book, and I promise I'll make your death painless. Keep resisting, and I'll let the Russians have you first." That was it. The mask was fully off. There was no love. There was no marriage. There was only a monster who viewed her as property to be traded. Charlie's hands stopped shaking. The memory of every slap, every insult, every moment of fear coalesced into a single, cold point of focus. "I'm not your wife anymore," she whispered. "I'm the widow." Richard raised his rifle, realizing too late that the look in her eyes wasn't fear. It was execution. Charlie pulled the trigger. Bang! The recoil jerked her arms up. The shot went wide, shattering a mirror behind him. Richard roared, bringing his rifle up to bear. Bang! Bang! Charlie fired again, correcting her aim. The first bullet struck Richard in the stomach, just below the vest. He doubled over, gasping. The second shot caught him in the shoulder, spinning him around. He dropped the rifle, clutching his arm, stumbling backward. "You bitch!" he screamed, blood bubbling from his lips. He reached for a pistol in his waistband with his good hand. Charlie didn't hesitate. She walked toward him. She didn't run. She walked. Richard fumbled with the gun, his fingers slick with blood. He looked up, and for the first time in their marriage, Charlie saw true, unadulterated terror in his eyes. He was looking at her like she was the predator. "Charlie, wait!" She stopped 5 feet away. She aimed the gun at his chest. "You dialed the wrong number, Richard," she said coldly. Bang! The final shot hit him center mass, piercing the heart. Richard Michael collapsed backward onto the debris-covered floor. He twitched once, his eyes staring up at the chandelier, and then went still. The two mercenaries behind him raised their weapons to fire at Charlie. Rat, tat, tat, tat. A submachine gun roared from the balcony above. Silvio stood there, smoke pouring from the barrel of his weapon. The two mercenaries dropped before they could even squeeze their triggers. Silence fell over the mansion. The only sound was the wind howling through the broken windows and the ringing in Charlie's ears. She lowered the gun. She looked at Richard's body. She expected to feel guilt. She expected to feel horror. Instead, she felt the first deep breath she had taken in years. The constriction in her chest wasn't from the broken ribs. It was from him. And now he was gone. Silvio came running down the stairs, kicking the weapons away from the bodies. He checked Richard's pulse, then looked at Charlie. He nodded with awe. "Clear," Silvio said into his radio. "Target is down. The threat is neutralized." Charlie dropped the gun. Her legs gave out. She sank to the floor, not in defeat, but in exhaustion. Moments later, the basement door burst open. Dom, leaning heavily on Dr. Calloway, stumbled into the hall. He was pale as a sheet, his bandages soaked through, but he was alive. He saw the bodies. He saw Charlie sitting amidst the glass. He broke away from the doctor and limped toward her. He fell to his knees beside her, ignoring the pain, and pulled her into his good arm. "You're crazy," Dom whispered into her hair, burying his face in her neck. "You're absolutely crazy." Charlie leaned into him, closing her eyes. "I learned from the best." 2 weeks later, the Chicago skyline burned with the orange and purple hues of twilight. The air was crisp, signaling the coming autumn. Charlie stood on the terrace of a penthouse overlooking the Chicago River. It wasn't the frantic, terrified hideout of 2 weeks ago. This was Dom's main residence, a fortress in the sky. She took a sip of vintage red wine. Her ribs were healing well. The sharp pain had faded to a dull, occasional ache. The bruises on her face had vanished, leaving her skin flawless. But she had changed. Her posture was straighter, her gaze was sharper. She wore a tailored black suit that cost more than her old car, and she wore it like armor. The sliding glass door opened. Dominic Moretti stepped out. His arm was still in a sling, but he moved with the predatory grace that defined him. The news had been a whirlwind. Richard Michael's criminal empire had been exposed. The Doomsday Book had led to 65 arrests, including judges, 2 senators, and the entire leadership of the local Russian cell. Richard was being painted by the media as a monster. Charlie was the grieving widow who had bravely survived a home invasion gone wrong. The official story was that Richard's criminal partners had turned on him. Dom's name was never mentioned. Dom walked up beside her, leaning against the railing. He looked at the city he now controlled more completely than ever before. "The lawyers finalized the transfer of Michael's assets today," Dom said quietly. "The accounts in the Caymans, the property portfolio, the stocks. It's all yours, Charlie. You're a very wealthy woman." He turned to look at her. His dark eyes searched her face. "You have the money. You have your freedom. You could go anywhere in the world. Paris, Tokyo. You never have to look over your shoulder again." It was an out. He was giving her a choice to leave the life of violence he inhabited. Charlie set her wine glass down on the railing. She looked at the phone sitting next to it, a new phone with a new number. 2 weeks ago, she said, her voice soft but steady. "I sent a text begging for help because I thought I was weak. I thought I needed saving." She turned to face him. She reached up and gently touched the bandage peeking out from his collar. "But you didn't just save me, Dom. You showed me who I really am." She stepped closer, eliminating the space between them. "I don't want Paris," she whispered. "I want Chicago, and I want the man who gave it to me." Dom let out a breath he seemed to have been holding since the night she texted him. He smiled, a rare, genuine expression that softened the hard angles of his face. He leaned down his forehead, resting against hers. "Then stay," he murmured. "Rule it with me." Charlie smiled, a dangerous, beautiful smile that promised the world wasn't ready for the two of them. "I thought you'd never ask." As the sun dipped below the horizon, plunging the city into darkness, the King and Queen of Chicago stood together, ready for whatever war came next. And that is the story of how a wrong number turned a victim into a survivor, and a Mafia Don into a savior. It's a brutal reminder that sometimes the only people strong enough to fight the monsters are the devils we fear the most. What did you think of Charlie's transformation? Did Richard get what he deserved? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. I read every single one. If this story kept you on the edge of your seat, please smash that like button. It really helps the channel grow, and subscribe with notifications on, so you never miss the next twisted tale of romance and danger. Thanks for watching. Until next time, be careful who you text.